When the United States demanded the extradition of Osama bin Laden from the Taliban and the Taliban refused, the U.S. military saddled up and got to work. That's right, the cavalry made a comeback during the combat operations in Afghanistan that began after September 11, 2001. Official combat operations didn't start until October 7, 2001, with airstrikes and Tomahawk missile strikes against suspected al-Qaeda training sites near Kandahar, Kabul, and Herat. On November 16th, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld announced that we'd had limited number of forces on the ground for weeks. He was referring to the horse soldiers, U.S. Special Forces who were attempting to secure northern Afghanistan with the Afghan Northern Alliance. These elite troops were in Afghanistan to advise the Northern Alliance fighters in their war against the Taliban government. Just 2 days before the 9/11 attacks, al-Qaeda operatives had assassinated Alliance leader Ahmed Shah Massoud, the man who had led wars against the Soviet Union and the Taliban. So when the American commandos arrived, the Northern Alliance fighters were ready for their own vengeance. But the only way to get around this country was on horseback, and for some of the Green Berets, it was their first time on a horse. Lieutenant Colonel Max Bowers told CNN it was like riding a bobcat. Sergeant First Class Joe Young, the team's medic and sniper, was thrown from his horse and broke his back, but he still continued with the mission. His rationale? I would not allow myself to be the weak link. It's not in my nature, and it's not in any Green Beret's nature. The horses had been trained to run toward gunfire, so Alliance charges against the Taliban resembled those from centuries ago. The difference being that the fighters had AK-47s instead of sabers. During the Battle of MAZAR-E, SHARIF, Sergeant Young treated Taliban fighters. They let one of the fighters go to tell other Taliban fighters that they were being treated humanely, and they would be too. This led to mass surrender after the battle. The Taliban POWs would later rise up and capture the arsenal at MAZAR-E Sharif, killing CIA operator Mike Spann, the first casualty of American operations in Afghanistan. It took 2 months for the Allied forces to defeat the Taliban government. Throughout the entire mission, Lieutenant Colonel Bowers carried a piece of the World Trade Center. After the fall of the regime, the special operators chose MAZAR-E Sharif to bury that iconic piece of steel with full military honors. Kentucky sculptor Dewey Bloomberg created a monument of these horse soldiers in honor of the entire military special operations community. The statue, the American Response Monument, is now at the World Trade Center site in New York City. Remember those who died in the tragedy at the Twin Towers, and let us all honor the men and women who have served our country.